Just allow the eyes to gently close. And allow yourself to fully arrive into this moment. You'll notice that the mind is jumping around. Where you've been, where you're going, noises around you, sensations and smells. But give yourself just a few moments to disengage from that constantly changing world. And allow yourself to drop in for a few moments into the world inside that is still, that is eternal, that is not bound by time and space and linearity. That's not bound by laws of stimulus and response. The inner world that just is. Just a constant, quiet, spacious, eternal experience of isness. It's not changing, not reacting, not lacking in any way, not separate even from all of existence. Just allow yourself to drop into that inner experience, what we call soul consciousness. As you close your eyes, the first thing we're always conscious of is the body. But then you drop deeper. And then we become conscious of our emotions and our stories and our thoughts. And then you drop deeper. And you drop into this experience of that which is not the body. And it's not the emotions. And it's not the experiences. But it is that eternal and infinite presence of just pure consciousness. Allow yourself to just rest there for a few moments. Thoughts will come along the way, don't worry. Don't get distracted by them. Just allow them to blow through your mind like wispy clouds blowing across a blue sky on a windy day. And just keep drawing your awareness, your attention to that spaciousness, that unchanging presence within you. The consciousness itself, not the object that you are conscious of, but the actual presence of consciousness itself. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level in Namaste. And gently rub the palms of your hands against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly lower your hands and open your eyes. Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together in this day just after the full moon. Did you all see the gorgeous moon last night? It's a very, very powerful time. We're now entering the month of Kartik, which is a very sacred month in the Hindu tradition. If you have any inclination toward lunar astrology, toward the energies, it doesn't matter what your religion is, but just any inclination toward the energies of the planets, the energies of the moon, the energies of the solar system, of the universe that we live in. This next month is a very powerful time for sadhana. It's a very powerful time for prayers, for puja. Whatever type of spiritual activity touches you, it's a really, really powerful time for that, especially for traditions and practices in the devotional or bhakti lineage. So whatever mantras, prayers, pujas, kirtan, meditation, whatever you do, just allow yourself to be a little bit more focused and sincere and dedicated to it for the next month. And allow your heart to open, to allow a little bit of that bhakti in. Even if you're a committed jnana yogi, just allow the possibility of some bhakti this month. It's a month very, very precious and auspicious to worshippers and lovers of Bhagawan Krishna. But not only Bhagawan Krishna, but any aspect of that bhakti tradition. It's a time when people will bathe in Ganga every day or bathe in Yamuna every day. Make sure to have their morning prayers, their evening prayers. It's a very, very prayer-filled, love-filled, sadhana-filled next month. So yeah, if you've got any inclination toward aligning your practice with the powers of the universe, this is a very auspicious time to do so. So we always start satsang with a question that's come from our online internet-based audience, those family members who join us through social media, online in different ways, who can't be with us personally. And then we'll open it up to any questions that any of you have. There's a microphone right here, so don't be shy. Just come up and ask your questions. But we'll start with one that came in advance. If everything in life, including our thoughts and actions, is part of a divine plan of karma, where does free will truly come into play? Is our free will simply a reaction to what is already destined? Or do we have the power to shape our destiny consciously? How can we reconcile the feeling of being guided by fate with the spiritual responsibility of making conscious choices? This is asked by Jayesh Gwalani on Facebook. So this is an age-old and always very important question of this interplay between free will and karma and destiny. So let me give you the pieces of it. Karma, as I explain all the time, the word actually means an action. That's what the word means. Karma means action. And spiritually, we believe pretty much the same thing that Newtonian physics tells us, which is that every action has a reaction, right? We all learn this in, 7th grade science. Every action is going to have a reaction. Now, in karma of life, it's not quite exactly the same as in physics, but it's similar. You give pain, you will receive pain. You give goodness, you will receive goodness. You do things that are selfless, you will receive what we speak of as punya, merits, plus points, gold stars from the universe. You do things that are wrong, bad. We don't believe in that evil, but just that are out of ignorance. And in that ignorance, you've acted selfishly, or with lust or greed or ego or arrogance or anger. And you've brought suffering to others. That is what we call pap, sin. So in that sin, you're going to get suffering. Simple. However, there's 3 different types of karma. That which is long-term karma, so I do it now, and I'm going to see the fruits like years and years and years and years and years from now, maybe even in my next birth. Then you've got your short-term karma. I take this glass of water, I throw it in your face, you yell at me, or you slap me, or you throw a glass of water in my face, or whatever it may be. Immediate reaction. I eat food, I feel full, or I feel sick, depending on what I've eaten. Immediate. Then we have the karma that is blossoming today that I planted in my past. That's the only stuff that I have no control over. Okay? 3 types of karma. Only one type does not respond to free will. I cannot rewind life. I cannot not have murdered somebody 2 lifetimes ago. But the other 2 types are what I'm doing right now. I have full agency and autonomy and power over them. As anybody who has ever tried to overcome a bad habit, a bad tendency, an addiction knows, we have free will in the moment. I can make a different decision now than I made yesterday. I cannot change yesterday's decision, but I have agency today. Yesterday I came home, I got drunk, I beat my wife. Today, I had an awareness. Maybe I went to the doctor and they told me I was dying of liver disease. Or maybe I went to see a spiritual leader who told me that if I don't stop doing that, I'm gonna, come back as an earthworm in my next birth. So whatever the factor is that has made me change. Maybe I read a chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. Something inspired me. Today I go home, throw out all my alcohol, take my wife out for a beautiful romantic dinner. Just because yesterday I got drunk and beat her doesn't mean I have to do it today. I have full autonomy. Now, I'm not free of the karmic repercussions from what I did yesterday. Me making a different choice today doesn't wipe my slate clean. It's going to probably take me a while to regain her trust, to regain her love, to reestablish a new relationship. Inevitably in the future, I'm going to experience some kind of suffering and pain because of what I have done to her in the past. But from today, I can change my immediate karma, and I can change the long-term karma that I am creating for today, from today. So free will is very powerful. But there are some things that are arising in my life today that I don't have control over because they're what I did in the past. If as a kid I ate lots and lots and lots and lots of candy and I never brushed my teeth, I can't undo the cavities in my mouth today. Just because now I'm a good brusher and flosser isn't going to repair my teeth from what I did when I was a kid. But it will prevent me from causing further damage. Right? So that's where free will comes in. Now, in terms of the deeper aspects of my karmic past being that which has brought me, for example, to go to see the doctor who told me that I have liver disease from my drinking and I better stop, or that brought me to go see the holy person or to read the Gita that inspired me to stop. That's also part of my karmic past. So in a way, yes, we can look at much of that which is happening and explain it by things of the past. There's actually a very interesting book out that I've started reading recently by a Stanford professor on neurology about free will. His perspective being from a neurologic standpoint that we have no free will. I'm waiting to get enough into the book until I can figure out exactly where I totally disagree with him. I know that I will totally disagree with him. I'm just not far enough into the book to get a handle on it yet. But just because, and I think this is where my disagreement is going to come from what I've read so far, just because we can explain connections and correlations doesn't mean that we don't have freedom. So just because, for example, I was raised in a spiritual, beautiful, religious family does not mean that I absolutely will become spiritual. Just because I was raised in a family of alcoholics does not mean that I will absolutely become one. There are probabilities. There are associations, there are connections, there are explanations. You can say, well, sure, of course, he's an alcoholic who beats his wife because his dad was an alcoholic who beat his mother, and he saw that every day. It's an explanation. But it does not mean that he doesn't have free will to change. So I'll tell you more about my arguments once I get farther into the book. But the professor who wrote it is brilliant, and I love him. So I'm looking forward a bit to the challenge. But we have total free will. Absolute free will. This is why, by the way, you don't have to take my word for it. But if you look at any religious tradition, not just today, but from the beginning of time, any philosophical tradition, anybody teaching you anything, from a nutritionist or a doctor who tells you better exercise or quit smoking or change your diet, to a trainer at the gym who gets you running on the treadmill, to a philosopher who shows you new ways of thinking about your life and yourself, to religion that tells us about prayer, about pilgrimage, about meditation, about chanting, about service. Every single one of these things is predicated upon the idea that we have free agency. If it were all written, there would be no point of doing anything. Why bother sending your kids to school? If their destiny is written, who cares if they get an education? Why bother? Let them sit at home and play in the dirt all day, right? If it's already written, why bother? Why wear a seatbelt? Why get insurance? Why eat healthily? Why do anything? And yet, every single wise person from every sector of life, from every nation, every religion, every aspect of history today, from the beginning of time, has given us ways of improving our lives, physically, mentally, spiritually, interpersonally, career-wise, economically. If none of it made any difference at all, surely over the last millions of years, someone would have noticed. And we would have stopped spending our lives doing things that didn't make a difference. We know they make a difference. You watch people who eat well, who exercise, who take care of themselves. They're healthier. They live longer. We know this. Not genetics, not necessarily based on what their family did. We see this. We know that meditation changes our brain. We've got all the science that shows us how meditation changes our brain. A choice I make today gives me different physical brain matter tomorrow, and therefore different connections, different brain activity. So, lots of evidence. Definitely you have free will. Use it. Use it to make the right choices, the healthy choices on every level for yourself. Great. Thank you for that question. Other questions? Anyone here, any questions? Yes, come to the microphone. Yes, namaste. Just 1 second, I can't hear you.
I want to know, how does one progress in one's spiritual life when we go back home and in our day-to-day world?
Taking this progress of our spiritual life back home, it's beautiful. First and most important piece is let yourself have deep spiritual experiences while you're here. If you are truly changed while you are here, the changed you goes back. I'm going to repeat that because it's really important. If you truly change while you're here, the changed you goes back. So while you're here, make sure that you let yourself really change. And then, when you go back, don't wait till you go back. While you're here, write down on paper or on your phone or on your laptop or whatever you use. But get it down in some way that's not just in your mind. How you are going to construct your lifestyle when you go back that is in alignment with the change that you have begun to experience here. Inevitably, there will be things that you need to remove from your life in order to make room for new things that you want to bring into your life. Figure that out. What do you need to cut out so that you have more room for the things that you want to do? Set up a daily schedule. What will your daily schedule be? What will your weekly schedule be? Because some things are daily, some things are more weekly. Get it all down while you're here. And start living by that while you're here. Lovely. Oh, now I'm back. Great. Now I'm off again. Other questions? Any other questions? Yes, as long as you're there.
Well, kind of following up on the previous questions, how do you coexist with people in our lives when we go back that are corrupt or evil people that we have to sometimes see or deal with?
Yeah, great. So when we go back, how do we coexist with those who are evil, those who are corrupt, those who are wrong, those who are living according to completely different values, ethics, priorities, worldview than us? Those who are negative, I mean, we've got a big scope of them. in the beginning, avoid them as much as you can. You know, the example that I always give is when you plant a tree, first we do a lot of tree plantation. Pujya Swamiji is very committed to tree plantation. When you first plant a tree, you have to put a tree guard around the tree because the tree is very tender. Monkeys will eat it, dogs will eat it, cows will eat it, everything will eat it. So you put a little tree guard around it. And then in the days when we used to use metal tree guards, we'd have to put guards to guard the tree guards because people would steal the metal and sell it. As the tree grows and the roots get very strong in the ground and the tree gets very big, you no longer need a tree guard. Then the monkeys can come, the dogs can come, the cows can come, swing on the branches, lie in the shade, pee on the trunk. Doesn't matter. Nothing impacts the tree. No tree guard necessary. Same thing is true with our spiritual growth. In the beginning, we need a little bit of that guard, meaning we need to the extent possible, allow ourselves to grow in soil that is safe, that is nourishing, that is nurturing. Surround yourself with a community, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a big community. It could be a community of 2. But nonetheless, a community that is in alignment with your values, your ethics, your priorities, your way of being. Slowly, 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 as those roots get strong, you can go anywhere. I've seen Pujya Swamiji in every single circumstance, with every single type of person, including being in jail. Not behind bars, but, giving talks to prisoners in jail. We've been in jails. Go anywhere. Be with anyone. Not impacted. Not impacted in a room full of violent criminals. But I wouldn't do that at the beginning. So when you first go back, I would say, to the extent possible, and it's not always possible. Sometimes those people are in your family. Sometimes they're in your workplace. Sometimes they're your next door neighbor. So to the extent possible, avoid those influences as much as you can for as long as you can. Ideally, as life goes on, you want to have the freedom and have the strength to go anywhere, to be with anyone, and not lose yourself. But it takes a while to get that level of strength and grounding. If you can't avoid them because they're in your family or your workplace, see how much you can not engage with them on levels of conflict. So, they want to load the dishwasher like this. You know that it makes much more sense to load it like that. Let them load it the way they want to load it. Right? Pick your arguments. It doesn't mean you become a doormat. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. But what it means is that you pick your fights. Can you deal with the dishwasher being loaded in a way that you know is wrong? How much can you deal with? So can you deal with watching this guy walk down the street? Just do it. Ask yourself, the key question all the time for me is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is me getting upset about something going to actually change the situation? You know, in the age of social media, we've come to believe in a way that there is some benefit, in just being angry. That there's some benefit in just being outraged. Let's try that one. This one. Thanks. All right, so now we'll have 2 microphones. Ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Simply being angry and outraged and yelling into the universe doesn't solve anything. Now, there are situations in which, even if it doesn't solve anything, it's important. Wars, human rights abuses. Even if you single-handedly cannot solve the problem, it is important that you get angry about it. Because the minute we stop getting angry about it, we become complicit in it. And yet, simply being angry about something doesn't mean that that's what takes over my day. It doesn't mean that I spend all day long on social media reading posts from other people who are angry and commenting on them and sharing everything. I experience the anger, I acknowledge the anger. If there is anything I can do, I do it. If there is not, I move on about my day in as much integrity with what I know to be right as I can, being aware that I am angry about this, but simultaneously being aware that there is nothing I can do. I will lend my voice. I will sign petitions. I will vote in certain ways. I will, whatever it may be. But I will stop thinking of my anger as the cure in and of itself. Because all that does is poison us. Right? It's like they say, anger is like drinking the poison but expecting the other guy to die. And tragically, the anger that we feel about other people's evilness, corruption, wrongness, and on lesser levels, just their negativity or their annoyance or whatever it may be. The anger doesn't actually change them. And so you've got to ask yourself, is it worth it? Or is it just handicapping me in such a way that I can't live my life? Right? That I can't step into the role I am meant to step into. Because I am so thwarted by, paralyzed by that anger. Or, as in cases that we've talked about, where my anger actually ends up harming me because I make bad decisions in my anger that actually could end up seriously backfiring. And so you want to be really aware. Where and how is anger useful? In terms of me spitting it into the world. And the times and places it is are, for example, when it's collective, when it has a specific aim and ask in mind, and when the collective of us has some power to make that ask happen. Huge movements throughout history have been catalyzed by anger. But the anger is just the energy that begins them. It's not what ends up running them. What ends up running them is a lot of planning and strategy, calmness, intelligence. And whether it's aspects of, ending human rights abuses, whether it's civil rights, whether it's gender rights, whatever it may be. Huge movements throughout history have been catalyzed by anger. So I'm not against anger in general. But the anger over that about which we absolutely have no control, and in which we stand alone, not in a collective. And the anger is killing us and not touching the system, is the time when we realize, all right, I acknowledge it, I notice it, it is there, it is wrong, I refuse to be part of it, and yet I have something else I'm supposed to achieve with my life. And this anger is paralyzing me from doing so. And we work to let it go. We were speaking last night about letting go of the fruits of, the attachment to the fruits of your labor. Like, okay, I've screamed, I've yelled, I've tweeted, I've, done all the things that I know how to do. And nothing has changed. And that's when I begin to let it go. Okay, so my path is different, my dharma is different. We move forward. And it doesn't mean that the anger was not super correctly placed. It doesn't mean that there isn't that evilness, that corruption, that wrongness. It doesn't mean that collective action is not needed. It is needed. But if the collective action is not there, and you find yourself screaming into a void, and you just end up with no voice because you've lost your throat, it's not what you were put on earth for. Yeah. And that's where faith is a critical part, is to recognize and realize everything in its time. Everything in its time. There's a time and a place, what in the Vedic tradition we speak about as a muhurt, an auspicious time. Everything has an auspicious time. In the stories in the scriptures of, the divine embodiments conquering the demons, well, there was a time. That was the moment. But there's a reason that the demons had not been conquered earlier. There's a moment. There's a right time for it. It would be so beautiful if we could just conquer all wrongness at exactly this moment, right here, right now. But we have faith. We're going to do our part. We're going to play our role fully and completely, knowing that if the divine had intended some specific piece of work from us, we would have been sent the tools, the abilities, the skills, the resources to do it. And if we don't have either the tools or the skills or the abilities or the resources to do something, especially after quite a while of trying, you recognize, okay, maybe this isn't my dharma. This is the dharma for another time and place. And it's not a failure. It's a recognition. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, we'll take this as the last question. Yeah, he's put another mic there.
Good evening. In Bhagavad Gita,
Can you speak a little bit more into the mic?
In Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned, karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachina. So you have control only on your deeds, but not on the results. So you don't, you work with a sense of detachment.
Yes.
But is it really possible, because when you work, you want to make a difference, you want to achieve something, if not for yourself, for the society, for the nation. If we are totally detached from the results, can you work? 100% involvement means you should be fully involved in it, give your best efforts. And on the other side is detachment. So how you really see the two of it?
Beautiful. Yeah, this is the same mantra that we were speaking about last night, about do your best, work fully, work sincerely, but do not be attached to the fruits of your actions. And he's saying, but is this even possible? Like, can you really do your best without any attachment to the outcome? Well, that's the challenge and the opportunity. There's one outcome that we do actually have control over. And ultimately, that's the outcome that we are meant to really work on, which is the internal outcome. There's an external outcome, there's an internal outcome for everything we do. We have no control over the external outcome. Is the project going to work? Is my boss going to like it? Is the company going to take it up? Will the people buy it? We have no control over that. But we do have control over how do I, in the preparation of, the execution of, the working for, the visioning of this piece of work, I have total control over my own internal sincerity, commitment, selflessness, integrity. And that's what's important. It's in the doing of it with sincerity that we change. One of my favorite stories is of a little boy who lived with his grandparents, and his grandfather was always reading the Bhagavad Gita. And the little boy one day decided he was going to start reading the Gita. But he didn't understand anything, and he went to his grandfather and he said, "Grandpa, I'm trying to read the Gita and I can't understand anything. I don't remember what I read." And the grandfather says, "Well, try a little harder. Let me know how it goes." A few days later, the boy comes back. He says, "Nothing. Can't remember what I read. Don't understand what I'm reading. It doesn't make sense to me." Grandfather says, "Keep trying." Boy comes back a few days later, completely dejected. He cries. He says, "Grandpa, I'm worthless. I'm used like nothing." So the grandfather says, "All right." He says, "Instead of reading the Gita, take this basket." And he gives him the basket that they used to carry coal in. And they used to use coal for burning in the stoves and things. And he says, "Take this basket and take it down to the river and bring me back a basket full of water." And the boy thinks, this I can do. Manual labor, no problem. So he takes the basket and he runs to the river and he fills it with water and he runs back. But it's a basket, it's not a bucket. And so by the time he gets back, all the water has fallen out. And he's very dejected, and his grandfather says, "Go, try again, run faster." The boy again gets his basket full of water, runs back. Again, no water left, it's all leaked out. And he says, "Grandpa, can I get you a bucket of water instead?" He says, No, I don't want a bucket of water, I want a basket of water." So again the boy goes, and he keeps doing it. And every time there's no water left by the time he gets there. And now he's totally dejected, and he collapses in his grandpa's lap, and he says, "Grandpa, I can't even bring you what you want, a basket of water." And the grandfather says, "You think you're a failure." He says, "But look at the basket." And the basket's beautiful and shiny and clean. He said, "Do you remember what that basket looked like when you started? It was all black and grimy from carrying the coal. It was filthy." He said, "Even though your attempt to bring me a basket of water did not work, Not even one drop of water got to me from the river. The sincerity of your attempt cleaned this basket so beautifully. And he said the same thing is true with this reading of the Bhagavad Gita. He said, you may not retain anything in the same way that the basket didn't retain the water. But the sincere attempt of it is purifying your mind the same way that the water purified the basket. And so whatever you're doing, the teaching is, whatever you're doing, whether you're reading scripture, whether you're trying to carry water in a basket, whether you're putting together a proposal or a project or a plan or doing something for the world, the sincerity of your attempt is that which purifies your internal self. Purifies your mind, purifies the buddhi, purifies all of that. So it's not about how many drops are there, how much happens and works. It's about the sincerity of the attempt and the purification of you through that sincere attempt. So you change the focus. Yeah, you try, you've got to want the external goal. Or you can't try sincerely. If the boy knew ki sambhavniye, there's no way I'm going to get a drop of water, then he's not going to try. He's not going to really work for it. You've got to believe in it. But simultaneously you recognize that all I have control over is my own sincerity, my own integrity, my own commitment and dedication. And that ultimately is what's propelling me on my spiritual path. The rest is in God's hands. Great. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. And a beautiful day to all of our family joining us online. And be sure, by the way, as always, to make sure that you're also benefiting, whether you're staying at Parmarth Niketan or not. You're welcome to join us for all of the daily beautiful activities, the yoga and meditation and philosophy and yagna and, of course, the beautiful Ganga Arati. So just allow yourself to really take advantage of everything. It's all open to everyone. There's no charge for any of it. Just dive into all of those beautiful offerings for your path so that you can be more and more changed while you're here, so that you carry that back with you. Beautiful, and I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. So much love to you.